Hey YouTube, this is M&J out there Power Equipment Repair. This is part 2 of the Toro 450. It's a lawnmower that came into the garage with an idling problem. Like I said, this is part 2. This part we're gonna actually take the carburetor off, and of course we're gonna have to unhook some linkage first. So first off, the bolts that are holding the carburetor on are 10mm bolts. Oh, just to make it a little bit easier on yourself, guys, you can take these pressurized clamp off, slide it down a little bit, and then twist the gas line off to the carburetor. That'll get that right out of your way to make it a little bit easier for you to get your hands in there to get that bolt out. Continue loosening this out until it comes out. You want to hold the carburetor so that it doesn't fall out, of course. You don't want any more problems. Okay? That said, the choke spring already has come off. We're about to take the last piece of linkage off the carburetor. Now, leaking gas out is normal. Gas gets inside the bowl. We'll talk about that more later. So what I'm going to do here real quick, I'm going to tip it out, have the gas come out of the intake for the gas intake to the carburetor. I'm going to empty this out real quick. I'll be right back. Alright, YouTube. I'd like you to have your attention on this for a minute. On some of these carburetors, you'll notice there'll be a little indent on the ball. This one, there's not an indent, it's just flat. But if you do have a carburetor that's got an indent on the bowl, on the bottom, you're going to want to make sure that you put that indent in the same spot that it came off, because there's a float inside here, and there's a needle that is inside a jet, so that when the gas level gets full inside the carburetor, the needle closes and doesn't allow any more gas inside the carburetor. This prevents your motor from flooding, and it prevents the carburetor from leaking out gas. So again, if you put the indent back on the wrong side of the carburetor, that float is not going to be able to move up and down correctly, so you may not get enough gas in your lawnmower for it to start. So now what we're going to do, take a 1/2 wrench, take the bottom of the bowl apart. Now you may get a little bit of gas on you, so you may want to use gloves. I'm not going to use gloves this time. So we've got the bowl out. It looks very clean, as you can see. It's very clean all over. Okay. Put that down over there. Don't lose the bolt, please. Okay, so next part is, here's the float I was telling you about. So if you take this little metal bar out of here, like that. Give me a rag, please. Just put it right here so I can put the carburetor parts on it. Get it out, fold it out a little bit. Here's the float and needle valve I was telling you about. This is the float. This is the needle valve. This little guy right here. Now, one more thing on the float is sometimes your lawnmower can be running very lean because these are just these are just plastic floats. It's hollow plastic, okay? Sometimes from it being old, you can end up with a little pinhole and gas can actually get inside of this float weighing it down. So the needle valve is not correctly going to close and stop gas from coming in when it's already full. So your motor could even not run at times, and it could just be because this float is a little hole in it. One way to test that, well, it's very simple. You just shake it when you take it out of the lawnmower if you're having any kind of gas problems, and see if there's any gas in it. If there is, that's probably your problem. Now we took this carburetor off. And I don't know if you can see that very well, but there is yellow stuff at the bottom of this carburetor. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna clean this carburetor up, and in part two, or I'm sorry, part three, um, we will reassemble the carburetor and get it back on the mower. And there are also some adjustments right here. There are also some adjustments right here that control how much gas intake and your air intake. Now, that is probably what the problem is. Now, the correct factory setting for this carburetor right here is 2.5 turns out. So what you do to reset one of these to factory is you turn the screw all the way in, and then you just go 1.5 turn, then another half, and that's where you should be. Oh, I'm sorry, I explained that wrong. For this carburetor, it's 1.5 turns. So you turn it one full turn and then half a turn. That's going to be in part two. See you guys later.